was wondering when you or him say things like the body-mind world is not real. Is it just in this sense that there's something impermanent about it, there's something not self-luminous about it, there's something changing about it? Or is it in a deeper sense? And maybe another way of asking is thinking about these things sort of a bridge to the deeper thing, or is it the deeper thing, or is it a bridge to in the wrong direction? Yeah.
So the other thing I should say before I give the radical teaching is that the answer doesn't matter what you believe. The teaching I'm about to give you, I could not accept it myself. Tom could not accept it. And it didn't impair his ability to follow the path. It's not something we should argue about. The main point of the teaching is not to discuss what the word real means and what the word unreal means, and to have a philosophical understanding about that. The purpose of the teaching is to go towards the real, irrespective of what you think real means, and thereby discover yourself. This is verse 3. So right at the beginning of the text, 40 verses. And it describes two people having an argument about whether the world is real or not. Verse 3, the world is true. No, it is a false appearance. The world is mind. No, it is not. The world is pleasant. No, it is not. What avails such talk? What avails such talk? Means, what's the point of this kind of argument? What avails such talk? To leave the world alone and know the self, to go beyond all thought of one and two. This egoless condition is the common goal of all. To leave the world alone and know the self, to go beyond all thought of one and two. This egoless condition is the common goal of all. Bhagavan is telling us, instead of arguing what does the word real mean, what does the word unreal mean? Is the world real? Is it not real? Is the world a beautiful place? Is the world not a beautiful place? This is the kind of thing we can easily argue about. Bhagavan's saying, leave all this talk behind. He says, leave aside the world. Leave the world alone. Yeah. And go inwards towards yourself, towards the I out. Discover what you are. Go beyond any idea, any notion of one or two. Is the universe, is the reality non-dual? Is it dual? Is it dual and non-dual? Forget all this stuff. And come back to yourself. This is typically Bhagavan's answer to most people in this kind of situation. To his closest devotees, he revealed a higher teaching that can be very helpful, which is what I'll share with you. It can be helpful on a number of levels, and it can also be very unhelpful for many people too. It can be very scary. So if it's scary, you're welcome to ignore it. This is what I did. Real, typically the word that's used is sat or satya, S-A-T. And unreal is that same word with the A, letter A, prefixing it, Asat. Or you could say Maya or Mithya. Mithya, M-I-T-H-Y-A in English or Roman script. Mithya means unreal. Maya means unreal. Bhagavan even tells us the meaning of Maya is that which does not exist. This is the literal meaning of Maya, that which is not. So the scriptures, if you read the scriptures, what they say is that which changes, that which is impermanent, that which is transient, or that which changes, all the same thing. Way. That which changes is not real. That's what the scriptures say. And they say that which doesn't change, that which doesn't change, that which is changeless, is real. What the scriptures do not say, is, when I say real, I mean that which doesn't change. And when I say unreal, I mean that which changes. Do you see the difference? What Bhagavan is saying and what the scriptures say is, if you see anything and it's changing, it's moving, it's transient, none of that stuff is real. And that which doesn't change, that is the reality. What he's not saying is, when I say real, what I really mean is unchanging. And when I say unreal, I mean, what I really mean is changing. It's two completely different things that sound very similar. Let me unpack that to make it really clear. Bhagavan is saying, in the state of reality, I know that's a strange way of putting it, in the state of reality, which is self-realization, in self-realization, the only thing exists is that which is real. Yeah. The only thing that exists in self-realization, in God realization, is reality. Anything that is unreal, any illusion, any wrong notion, anything unreal no longer exists in that state. All illusion, everything that's unreal, falls away in realization. And only reality remains. Does that make it clearer? Do you see the difference between saying that which is unreal, that which is changing, that which is changing or transient is unreal? It will no longer be there when you discover reality. And that which is unchanging, that is the reality. That is the only thing that will be there in realization. That's the teaching of the Upanishads. That's the teachings of Shankara. That's the teachings of Bhagavan Ramana. It's the teachings of Buddhism too. And when you read the original Buddhist texts, he phrases it differently. He says in Nirvana, there's non-arising or phenomena. Non-arising means it no longer appears. In Sanskrit, it's much easier because the same word that means real also means exists. It's the same word. So Sat means real, and Sat means exists. And in English, we have these different words, real and exists, but they're synonymous. They're synonyms. They mean the same thing. If something is real, that means it exists. And if something is unreal, it means it doesn't exist. You can't have but what the distorted teachings try and do, they try and prize apart these two words and make them into two different meanings. They say, in Vedanta, something that is unreal still exists, but it exists as something changing, you see. In the original Sanskrit, we don't have this problem because there's only one word. And the rishis who wrote the Upanishads, they could articulate themselves very well. And they made it very clear what the words mean. This is the radical teaching. And I'd just like to read a verse, if I can find it, which is Bhagavan saying this. So you know it's not just me making this up. I like to always try and show that this is Bhagavan's teaching. Sri Ramana Paravidyopanishad, verse 88. That which survives in the experience of the real self is the supreme state. That alone is real. See, he's defining reality as that which is still there in liberation or self-realization. That which survives in the experience of the real self is the supreme state. That alone is real. All else is only unreal. That means anything that doesn't continue to exist in self-realization, that is called unreal. This is the distinction between the real and the unreal, revealed to us by the teachings of all the sages. Verse 89, since multiplicity is experienced only in the state of ignorance, it is declared to be unreal. On the other hand, because the unity of the self is experienced on the liquidation of ignorance, that unity is real. And there's a comment, the reality is only that which survives in the supreme state. And then verse 90, the sole reality is that peaceful self, which shines by the light of its own nature as pure consciousness in the supreme state, wherein the world is lost. Such is the teaching of our Holy Guru. In verse 91, as the dream world is known to be unreal, for the reason that it vanishes upon waking, so this waking world is also proved to be unreal by its vanishing in the light of the real self. Verse 92, next verse. But ignorant men who are averse to winning the supreme states put forth an endless series of arguments trying to refute this teaching. The sages clear the doubts generated by these arguments so that earnest aspirants may not be deluded by them. And then it goes on to say that this teaching isn't really for people who are highly attached to the body and the mind and the world. It's only for those who are genuinely looking for liberation. And if you're highly attached to the body, mind, world, the implication is this teaching shouldn't be given, really. It can be very disturbing. Many people are disturbed by this teaching. And that's why we don't shout from the rooftops, this teaching. So if you read the Upanishads, this teaching is given very clearly throughout the Upanishads. There are 108 Upanishads traditionally, and this teaching is given very, very clearly throughout them. But it is rather radical.